Welcome back to Saymore. This is Kim, the host of Saymore and the founder of miemind, where everything is on mind and energy. We're back into season 2, and season 2 is all about alternative healings, ways that you connect with yourself and then find out the source of the so-called problems and get rid of it. Today on my show, I have the very beautiful Vicky Paul. Vicky is an abstract artist who uses her intuition as well to draw. She's an energy healer known for her pioneering work conceptualizing universal energy, transformation, psychic experience, consciousness, and chromology. Vicky uses energy and color as a foundation of her art. By infusing her paintings with healing frequencies, she makes art to create positive transformation from the inside out. Her intention is to take the viewer on a journey spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually to awaken, reveal, and discover something new about themselves. I love that, Vicky. Welcome to Saymore.
Thank you. It's so lovely to meet you in person online, Kim, and thank you very much for the opportunity to chat to you. It's very kind of you. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you. Vicky, I was reading, what you filled out, and what struck me the most, because I've loved radio, and I was telling you I had a little stint with them for 6 months. You used to be a radio host, and then you moved into your spiritual journey and the artwork through intuition and color and frequencies. Tell us how that change transpired.
So I would have said that I was always intuitive, but wasn't fully aware of what that meant. So I was just going about my daily business, always worked in, I would say corporate jobs, but corporate creative jobs. So mostly the media. And at the time, I had been working as a radio presenter for 6 or 7 years, and I was co-hosting a breakfast show, and it was an amazing job. I loved it because I love to communicate. I love connecting with people. And I met some wonderful celebrities. I got the chance to interview Madonna and George Michael, Kylie Minogue. And I was, in my mind, I was, on the top of my game. There was something kind of niggling underneath that was just, this kind of, is there something more? Is this it? And that kind of niggled away at me for months. And I felt guilty with it because I had, on the surface, this amazing job that I genuinely loved. Then out of the blue, I went into work one Friday morning, and after the show, it was a breakfast show that I used to co-host. I got pulled into the boss's office and he said, "We're terminating your contract, pack your bags and leave." It was not very well handled by them. But it was interesting because I walked into their office and the first thing I said to them was, "When am I leaving?" And when I look back now, I'm like, oh, right, okay, so that must have been the start of the intuitive thing trickling in. So I didn't take it very well. I was very upset and ended up having a bit of a breakdown because I, at that time, had wrapped my entire identity around what I did rather than who I was. So losing what I did, really, in essence, it was like I lost myself. So I had a bit of a breakdown, and then I ended up having this spiritual awakening where, and this is a fast forward brief story, where a year or two later, I'd actually got another job working in the radio, but had some ill health along with it. But I saw my grandfather standing in my living room. Now, my grandfather at the time had been dead for 25 years. And I know this might seem a bit out there and a bit strange for some of your listeners. But the really bizarre thing for me was that this never freaked me out. I was kind of like, oh, there's Papa. And I was kind of transfixed by the whole thing. And it was only maybe, a few seconds. But instead of freaking out and going, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I thought, right, I'm going to explore this. And I was put in touch with somebody who was an energy worker at the time and had a chat with her about it. And she had said, well, it is. You did see your Papa. He wants to know who the guy is that's moved in that plays the violin. And she could never have known that. My now husband, then boyfriend, plays the fiddle, and my Papa played the fiddle. So this whole thing just kind of, it was like everything connected. And then I went on this journey to explore what all of this meant, what it meant for me, how I was supposed to use these gifts. And I met some amazing people along the way. I trained with some amazing psychic mediums, James Van Prague from America and a woman called June Field from Scotland. And it was really about uncovering what energy is. And I call it energy. You know, other people can call it different things, but for me, energy makes sense. And I understand it all sounds a bit woo-woo, but for me, I feel that part of what I'm here to do is to de-woo-woo the woo-woo, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
To kind of
it's
normalize it, because I think a lot of people get put off with it.
exactly. Every single guest of mine on Saymore, we have the same underlining message that been in a corporate job, whether it, you know, you've been lucky to be in the creative space of a corporate job, but most of the guests have been, and myself, we've been in corporate, and then you move to energy and we're like, okay, we got to bring energy into mainstream without it sounding, you know, completely woohoo, and just bring it as an offering that if you follow your spiritual journey, you're going to be more successful, you're going to be more healthy, you're going to be more happy, you're going to be more wealthy, and all of that is just going to fall in place. So totally get you. No surprise, you're in Saymore. So Vicky, tell me then, how do you move from that journey? And it's not even funny that every story has this part, then there's the breakdown, then there's the breakthrough. It's like, wow. When did the breakthrough, what was all happening that brought about the breakthrough in the breakdown?
Well, I was getting, the minute you started to ask that question, I was going, oh my God, where do I start? Because like you say, it's never a fairies and feathers and everything's wonderful. We all, as I'm sure all your guests share, you very rarely come to this dramatic change of course without something transformational happening to you. And transformational tends to involve some form of challenge where you hit some form of rock bottom. And that's really what happened with me at the time. So I lost my job and I couldn't find another job because I'd been a radio presenter for a number of years. And at the time, there was a sort of a financial crash. So employment opportunities were limited at the best of times. So I was out of work for a year, and I was seeing a guy at the time, and we'd also bought a house that we were in the middle of a renovation. So I ended up, our relationship broke down. So lost the house, lost all of my savings, ended up homeless. Thankfully, not homeless on the street. And I'm not trying to take away from anyone who's had that experience, but my house sale fell through 3 days before I was due to move in. So I had nowhere to stay. I had to go and stay on a friend's sofa, and I was not in a great place. So I want to call it a dark night of the soul or some kind of breakdown that really it stripped me of everything materialistic and physical that was everything that I'd spent my entire life heading towards. You know, I wanted the job, the car, the house, the relationship, the finances. I lost all of that. And because I lost everything that I thought I was, it was an opportunity that actually took a number of years to fully unfold, because I'm resistant to change. I love change and I love new things and experiencing new things. But at that time, I was really resistant to it because I was afraid that I would lose all the positive aspects of my personality and the good fun and, you know, the out and about and meeting people. So I resisted. So it took a number of years. And it wasn't until, so I ran in parallel a sort of still corporate job. I set up as a freelance PR consultant looking after arts and culture clients, in parallel with exploring all the energy side of things and training in different modalities, but never fully loved it. Loved the creative people, but didn't love the job. And then I got married, and my husband and I unfortunately had 3 miscarriages. And I really struggled to express how I was feeling about that and the impact that that had on me as a woman, as a human, and also as a spiritual being, because I thought, well, why did I not know about this? If I'm intuitive, why did I not intuit this was going to happen? So I had a bit of a crisis of faith. But then one day I was guided to go back into an art shop and by materials. So to jump back very briefly, I used to paint all the time when I was younger and took it all the way through school and as a hobby. And my grandfather that I'd seen in my living room all those years ago was also an artist. And I think what had happened was this whole big culmination of him coming in to direct me onto a different path. Wow. And I ended up picking up paints and canvas and just throwing paint onto canvas in an abstract fashion, and couldn't believe how the colors and the sense of expression connected with me and healed me from the loss and the hurt that I had personally experienced. Obviously we did as a couple. And that's when I thought, right, this is it. This is what I need to be doing. I need to go on this journey and explore it further. And, you know, a number of years down the line, this is what I'm now doing.
That is so, I don't even know what's the word for it, that in that time, your grandfather appearing was literally to open that new path, right? To open that new door saying, hey, it's okay, I got you. Just start following, you know, the little nudges, a little place there. And I think just showing up to show you that, you know, I'm there, I'm watching over you. That is so, it's like a warm hug. I can feel it through your conversation. It's such a warm hug that you don't know what's happening, but you have the sense that there is someone looking over me.
And that's exactly what it was. When I first became aware of my grandfather, and this was maybe a year or so before I saw him, in inverted commas, I used to drop things and things would happen, random things. And instead of saying, oh, I'm tired or clumsy, it always came into my head that my grandfather's trying to get hold of me. And at the time, again, I never thought this was weird. I just thought, okay, but nothing ever transpired. And it wasn't until a year or two down that path, he then appeared. But you're absolutely right. It was to show me what I was capable of. And I will say, excuse me, since then, I've never seen another human being in that capacity from spirit. I've seen a dog, but I've never seen another human being in that way. And I don't see dead people, you know, and I'm being slightly light about it. But for me, it definitely feels like he was there to guide me and to show me this is what you're here to do, is to explore these gifts and to take it as far as you are open to taking it. And he was standing out with his hand reached out towards me as if to take it. And you're absolutely right. It was 100% to get me onto this path. And I have no doubt in my mind that that's what it's all about. And I am aware of him guiding me and supporting me, not all the time, but a great percentage of the time. And definitely from the art point of view, because both my grandparents were hobby artists.
Oh. So, Vicky, you've written something that I'm reading for the first time. Not only are you an intuitive abstract artist, but you use frequency into that. Tell us more about it.
So I trained when I was exploring, you know, all this sort of psychic and intuitive energy. I started to study energy healing. And so this is something similar to Reiki. So I'm sure you've all heard of Reiki. So I studied, it's called diamond light. So Reiki's from the Far East, diamond light is from Egypt. And I connected with that particular energy because I've got a thing about Egypt, but it's the same type of modality. So we are all energetic beings able to co-create with the universe. We're able to heal one another by putting our hands on each other. We can heal with a hug. You can heal with words. So these are all frequencies. Everything that we are, everything that we say is vibrational energy. And as an artist, I channel that energy and represent it through not only the colors and the textures on the canvas, because as you know, excuse me, color is energy or energy is color. It has its own frequency. Sound has its own frequency. So I talk to my paintings, I send intentions into my paintings, and I put guided wisdom into my paintings and healing energy from the universe, God, source, spirit, one, whatever you and your guests or your followers resonate with. So every painting that I create, for me, the journey and my aspect and my involvement is in creating it and connecting energy with a physical form. And for that, and for me, it's a painting. For other people, it could be a song or a book or a center or whatever it may be, a yoga class, and marrying the two together so that when people view my paintings, it speaks to them on an energetic level, at a soul level. Because for me, a picture paints 1,000 words, and abstract art in particular, it's not for me to tell you what this painting means. I can guide you, but it's about you following the colors, following the patterns, and seeing what each of these shapes and forms opens up within you. So they're all, I call them visual portals. And I use, so there's the visual aspect of it, and you use that sense, but underneath is the sixth sense, our energetic sense, that's working away unconsciously between you, me, the painting, and the universe. It's this kind of huge connection. So that's what I mean by putting healing frequencies into them.
My God, I love it. And I'm looking at the picture behind you, and it's so gorgeous.
Thank you.
So gorgeous. I mean, I can't wait for you to come to Dubai and do a workshop for us.
Oh, I'd love to. I would love to. I take intuitive painting workshops, which help people to reconnect with their inner knowing, their guidance, their creative, fun-loving, joyful self without judgment. So I would love to do that.
Most definitely. When you're here, just drop me the message and we'll arrange it. Vicky, coming to that, how can one, since you've been there, you've done that, you found your essence through paint and frequency, how can somebody follow your path, follow your healing, and make that their healing through art?
Well, I believe everybody is creative. We are creating every moment of our lives. So that's the first thing I want to say, is that you don't need to consider yourself arty or creative in that fashion. The second thing is, excuse me, I seem to have a frog in my throat today. Just take a wee drink of water. The second thing I would say is that certainly for me in the UK, when we were guided to do art in school, it was always about copying something and copying up a bowl of fruit or a person or some kind of scene. But abstract art, there's no preconceived idea about what it's going to be. So I would strongly recommend that you go and get something to paint on, get some paints, get some crayons, anything that puts color onto a surface. And it doesn't need to be paint or a canvas, but just scribble, doodle, play, allow yourself to take the color and the texture across the surface without any idea, without any, oh, I'm going to create this or I'm going to do that, because creativity is all about expressing yourself. And the beauty of abstract art is that because you're not trying to replicate something, there is no good or bad outcome. It's not a good or bad painting. It's about tapping into your sense of freedom. And oftentimes when you're stuck, it can be very difficult to have the confidence or find the time or the space to actually do that. So if that feels too much of a leap for you, then sit down with yourself, take a few moments, you know, whether it's in the bath, light a candle, however you relax, and just ask yourself, you know, with your hand on your heart, you know, what's my next move? How can I deepen my connection to myself? And oftentimes I use dance as a way to get into my body and out of my head. So I love putting on my favorite music, which is dance music, turning a volume up full bung and just dancing in the kitchen for 5 or 10 minutes and just getting into my body. And that's just one way of connecting to your body, taking your critical self out of your head and into your body, and then just flowing. And I always say to people, you don't need to have paints to be able to create color. If you cook and you bake, you may well have food coloring in the house, and you can add that to toothpaste or body lotion and use a plate or your kitchen work surface and just move the color around. It's about playing. It's all about playing and letting go and feeling free.
It sounds, when I'm listening to you, it almost sounds so therapeutic, because you're letting that energy channel out onto your hand and just get onto something else. Because sometimes, because it's so heavy up here in the head, you don't even know what you're processing. But when you bring that out, you notice that, hey, I'm putting a lot of blacks and a lot of this and a lot of that. Like, hey, what's this darkness? Then it might just answer back to you and say, you're fearful or you're insecure, or you're angry. And maybe it just releasing that is a therapy itself.
Absolutely, 100%. And the reason I reference dance, because you move your body when you dance and you move your hands. And obviously we're filming this on video and you can see me do that, but you can't see where you've left your hand. There is an energetic footprint, but with painting, it's the same thing. All it does is allow you to see where you've moved yourself, where you've moved your hands or a paintbrush or whatever you've decided to use to apply the paint on canvas. And you're absolutely right. Your choice of colors, when you look at all the vast array of colors and the palette, and you're drawn to pick up certain colors and combine them and place them in certain places, they tell, excuse me, they tell a story.
Yes,
and
yes.
The internet is full. If you don't know the spiritual meaning behind colors, the internet is full of information about what those colors are telling you about yourself and where there's maybe some imbalances. And, I do a lot of work with chakras.
Yep.
And the sort of primary colors work with the chakras. So, if you're drawn to using yellow, for example, there'll be an imbalance in your sacral chakra and your solar plexus chakra. So there's information and guidance all the way through the process.
Oh, that's so beautiful, because so many times, Vicky, we're so intimidated by making any artwork because they're like, I'm not good. Guess why? Because in school you're told, oh, you got a C, you got an E, you got an F, you're not good. But abstract, like you mentioned, is just free flowing. It's just a representation of who we are and what we're going through inside. More than just completely of who we are, but what we're going through. And I totally see how that is so beautifully releasing, so beautifully, letting go. So thank you for sharing that. I did not know when this aspect of, your topic was connected to healing, but you've so beautifully brought that to life that I can literally think, Saturday, I'm going to get this big canvas, and with my kid, we're just going to paint and see what comes up. So
that's it. And children, when kids paint, not in school, but when they're playing at home and they decide, I'm going to make the sea red and the grass is going to be purple and I'm going to make that cow bright green. They don't say, cows aren't green. The sea isn't red. They don't care. They just play because in their mind, that's what it's meant to be. And that's really exactly, and if any of your listeners have kids, go and play with them. Go and tap into their energy of, and it's all about not judging yourself and judging what you're creating. And that's the beauty of intuitive abstract art, because there's no judgment involved.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful, Vicky. I love what you wrote about yourself, that the one thing that every person should have as a skill is compassion. Tell me why. I agree with you, but tell us why.
I think compassion, I'm a real advocate of work on yourself first. And it's like when you're in a plane and they're giving you the safety guidelines and they tell you when the air mask comes down, don't put it on your husband or your wife or your kid, put it on yourself first, then go and help people. And dependent on what culture you were brought up in or what your family experience was like, or your peers of society, you're often told that, putting yourself first is selfish.
Selfish, yeah.
But I kind of say, well, you have to be a little selfish. And when you take care of yourself first and you take responsibility, and I always feel responsibility is a bit of a heavy word. I like to say it's responding to your ability. When you take ownership and responsibility for who you are and your part in your life, Instead of handing your power out for other people to use and abuse and take off you, you take that energy back in. So you automatically become stronger and a more resilient person. But to do that, you have to have compassion for yourself, because like all of us, we have all the unpleasant parts of our personality that we're not comfortable owning or sharing or admitting to. And these aspects of our personality and all the past experiences that we've had in our lives, or the times that we've behaved inappropriately, or, you know, we've said or done the wrong thing, or whatever it may be, we have to, in responding to our ability, take ownership of those. And to do that, you have to have compassion for yourself, because you did the best you could at the time with what you've got. And I believe that to become the best version of ourselves, we have to go through all these different challenges to understand who we really are. Because when life is swimming and everything's going beautifully, you don't pay any attention. Everything is, all your energies outwards, and you don't learn anything about yourself. So when we have compassion first and foremost for ourselves, you then have compassion for other people. So you don't judge other people, you support other people. So I believe if we all had compassion for ourselves and one another, it would be a very different world that we lived in.
It's so beautiful. You know, I've heard a lot of people say we need to have compassion, but you're probably one of the first people saying that first have compassion for yourself. Give yourself that time, that space, that process, and only then we'll understand other people better.
100%, 100%. How can you, you know, the saying is that you never criticize somebody without walking in their shoes, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But you know, compassion is such a layered word, because it involves love, forgiveness, empathy, hope, letting go. There's, you know, there's so many different aspects to it. So yeah, I mean, for me, and to be honest, I still struggle with it at times. I have a lot more compassion for myself, but it's a journey. It is a journey.
Truly so, truly so. Vicky, tell our listeners and viewers as well on YouTube, where can they find you? What can they connect with you, to learn from, to engage with you? Where all then can they access your healing, your brilliance, your artwork, all of that?
Thank you so much. So I am on the internet, vickypaul.com, and that's VICKYPAUL, and that has all the information about everything that I do. I paint, obviously, as we've been discussing today. I combine my energy healing training with my artwork, and I create something called soul energy portraits that are a fairly transformational, deep process, so that they're really for people who are keen to really open up and unfold who they are. And that's a sort of deeply healing and transformative process. It's a co-creative process where we create this visual guidebook through the use of art to your life. I also have written a book, Vicky, it's not called Vicky Paul, goodness, it's called How to Be Successful, and I'll just throw it in there if anybody's interested. That's a kind of guidebook to my journey and how you go through a spiritual awakening, because when I went through mine, I felt like I was alone. So I've written about that. And I hang out on Instagram, Vicky J. Paul. And yeah, I do online workshops, and hopefully I'll be in Dubai. Depends when this goes out, but I'm coming out to Dubai in September. And if there's an opportunity to do something with Kim, then I'd love to do that. But if you're interested, you can contact me, and I'd be delighted to discuss anything further.
Well, fantastic. All the information that Vicky's just read out to you is also going to be on the show notes on YouTube and the podcast. So don't worry, all that is going to be there. You don't have to quickly run to your phone to note it down. Vicky, before you go, the podcast is called Saymore. What, according to you, should people be saying more about?
That's a great question. People should be saying more about who they truly are and how they truly feel and how they truly want to show up in this world.
Yeah, I love that. That is embodying the full essence of authentic living, right? Wonderful. Wonderful. So well articulated. Vicky, thank you so much for joining Saymore. Thank you for your artwork, your story. I can't keep my eyes off the artwork. So guys,
Thank you.
go and watch this at YouTube. You will actually get to see exactly what she's saying because it's so beautiful. And that's the beauty of abstract art, right? Each person looks at it and it has a different meaning for them. Like I'm looking at something as the pink colors over there. What does it mean? Is that dread? Is that the solar? Not the solar. Is that the root chakra sitting at the base? Does it need to move here? So everyone has their own representation of, or the way they want to see and understand that, which is personal to them.
Absolutely.
So
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's just a pleasure to connect with you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to chat to you and share what I do with your listeners.
well, you're very welcome. Thank you, everyone that's tuned in. Go ahead, just pick up some canvas, take up some, paint, invite your family, invite your loved ones, and have a fun day. Release that energy. It just sounds so therapeutic. I can't imagine how beautiful it would be when you actually do it. But until the next time, say more of who you are, how you feel, and what you want to be, just like Vicky advised. Big love for now. Until the next time, live a big life.